said to me, though, that was comforting. He said, well, you're still my son. And I said, okay. But, you know, some people can disown you when you do crazy stuff. You know? So he decided that I was still his son. And oddly enough, I did find a job that offered me a telemarketing position in a consulting firm. And it was on the beaches of Santa Monica. So, and ultimately he came around as my career started to grow from there. I went on into entertainment, and I started work at Showtime Networks after a stint with Xerox. And that was just a great time. Showtime back in those days, this is the late 80s, early 90s, and it was just so much fun. You didn't have all the kind of chatter that you have now. You could really put on a good show, and you could have fun. Back in those days, my job was to take people out, go to events, have some drinks, and get them to sign the bottom line. And it was just a lot of fun. You know, it's a lot different now where you gotta practically, you know, promise the world to people to make them do anything. But back in those days, it was so much fun. Oddly enough, even in those great days, I had in the back of my mind, I had never, you know, I didn't grow up in a household where, you know, my parents were corporate heads or anything like that. They weren't, you know, they both had decent education, things of that nature, but they weren't big-time corporate executives. So they had the spirit of entrepreneurialism in a lot of ways. My father ultimately ran his own bookkeeping service. So in the back of my head, and I guess a little bit in my DNA, was entrepreneurialism and running my own business. So even when I was working for Showtime Networks, which promoted me up and up and up, and eventually, you know, I was a pretty high executive working for Showtime, I had in the back of my mind, boy, I really love to start something. But like you, Derek, I was, you know, people would come to me with ideas, and I'd say, I've got a good job, you know, it's cool with me. And then I got approached by a brother named Bob Gerard, who was a big-time lawyer for HBO at that time. And he and a guy named Stanley Thomas, another brother, were starting a new network, a new television network. I was very loyal to Showtime, but I met this brother, and they were like, listen, we're gonna start a video game channel. And I love video games, and I thought, man, this could be right up my alley. I know cable, I know games, I know all this stuff. And brothers are starting it, I'm down. So I left a very strong career. I mean, the CEO, Tony Cox, at that time of Showtime, I was one of his hand-picked dudes. I used to help negotiate with Don King, the boxing contracts, all types of stuff I was involved in. But that opportunity presented itself, and at that time, the industry was moving from an analog industry to a digital industry. And for me, I thought it would be really important to be on the right side of history, and I wanted to be in the digital space. So we got this channel up, Sega Channel, and that network really sort of defined where we are today in terms of high-speed modems and things of that nature, because we were downloading files from satellite way before cable was offering you digital boxes. So a lot of the cable industry sort of watched us, learned from us, and created plans around it. So all that to say, I got the digital bug right there, still having the entrepreneurial spirit. At some point I figured I can figure out a way to combine them. With Sega Channel, Stanley Thomas, the founder, and the brother I talked about, he died within a year of us starting the business. So your visionary's gone, what do you do? So we were scrambling, we were trying to figure out who would be the next successor to Stanley. There was like 4 of us that were in executive management, you know, and we were just trying to figure out what would happen. More importantly, technology was changing. Everyone was catching on board. We were owned by Time Warner, at the time TCI, which is now Comcast, and Sega, so a 3-way partnership. None of them had internet strategies at that time. So they decided we need to figure out how to figure out our destiny, and so our money was drying up as far as them investing more into technology and how to progress the actual business. So we all started to figure out we got to make a move. I went over to Comedy Central, which for me was sort of going back into my comfort zone, working in a traditional network. But I got lucky in that we got the script for South Park, and I was able to benefit from the success of that show. We got that show out there, and it just changed the entire network, and we all just really, you know, benefited from that, both financially and from a career-wise. So that was my launching point. I had done the corporate thing, I had done the startup thing, and now I had launched a successful show that put some pretty good money in my pocket. It was a good time to figure out how to launch my own company, because I always wanted to get back fully immersed in the digital space. And within a year, I had $1 million check sitting on my table from starting my business. And I thought to myself, I could have never gotten this check continually just working for the man. So it was very gratifying to know that you could start a business and some success can come very early on. It became a struggle after that. Being handed $1 million is cool. Holding on to $1 million is difficult. So, but we still are in business and we still get $1 million checks. And I'm very happy about that. But there were some lean years in between when I started my business and today. My business is 14 years old. So you can remember back in 99, 2000, there was a big internet business crash. And that was the business we were basically in. And we survived that crash. And then, of course, the recent recession, we are pulling out of that crash. So there are bumps in the road that any entrepreneur will go through, including myself. So I'm going to advance these slides here. So one thing I will do that Mr. Dingle, you know, as great as he was, I have to figure out one thing I can do of my own. I'm going to bring you a message from God. You know, 10 Commandments. I mean, you know, it's a whole nother level. So we'll get into that in 1 second here. I just want to finish this quick story here. That, and by the way, I was featured in Black Enterprise early on in the technology section. So I too have an affinity for that, and very much inspired by that magazine and read it religiously. So so there's always a connection with all of us here. So anyway, as I started the company and we had these kind of nice checks rolling in, I went back to a lot of my connections. You know, I did business with Showtime, and business with HBO, and business with comedy, and a number of networks that I had already been doing business with. So that's always good. If you already have a network, you can always go back to the people as long as you don't have those shaky or broken bridges. And people will be willing to help you out. So, so that was very good for me and the company. And I think the challenge became, you know, sustainability, you know, how do you deal with partners, all the sort of business functions that you have that get in the way of you enjoying what you really want to do, which is the product or service that you offer. So that became a challenge. And what I have found is the best thing to do is make sure you prepare and be ready for those challenges. And I'll talk about that as we get into the commandments. But for me, at the end of the day, Ember Media has delivered a lot of great things for me. Financially, it's been rewarding from an entrepreneurial perspective, quite inspiring from that perspective. But I will tell you what the most important thing, what I was gratified the most about the company. The thing that got me going the most, believe it or not, it's going to maybe sound odd to most of you, but with great clients, you know, great projects. You know, you did drop the name Obama. I will drop the name Clinton. I worked directly with President Clinton, and he did put one of my products in his presidential library. So, you know, my stuff's going to be a long time. But anyway, so as much as that was rewarding, and you know, I loved telling that. The one thing that happened that made me probably the proudest of anything that I did or have done within this company is when the day I was able to pull all the employees together and say, you now have a 401k plan. And that really, I don't know how much it meant to them, but I know for me coming out of corporate America, having a 401k plan, having those kind of retirement savings, all that was always important to me. It helped me buy my first apartment here in the city. It helped me, you know, all types of things a 401k can do for you. And I thought that day was the day I felt like, wow, We really got a great business that can offer, we offered health benefits and all that stuff, but to be able to offer a 401k plan where these young people could one day, own their own stuff or retire on some of this money. And to this day, I'm very proud of that. So that it's the small things for me that have been very inspiring. Let's get into the 10 Commandments, because we need a message. All right? So, even though the conversation is more about inspiration, I thought I'd just add this element of things you probably already know. Some of these things Khalil Muhammad already spoke about, and Derek already spoke about. But I just thought I'd put it in a way that we could all somewhat remember. So the first commandment that everyone here knows, not everyone always is disciplined about it, but it's about having a plan. Thou shalt have a plan. And that's not just at the beginning. You have to have a plan all the way along your business life. For our company, we did a business plan before we launched. We looked at that business plan because it was a 3-year plan. We looked at it 3 years later and tried to check, what did we accomplish? Did we stick to this plan accordingly? How can we measure ourselves against that plan? And then we did a new plan. So you have to constantly plan and be diligent about keeping that plan alive and current. Thou shalt not work for free. If we all start giving away free stuff, you'll find yourself kind of like this country, right? In debt. And, as much as we try to do everything for everybody, we find out that it's not a sustainable model. So you have to charge for your services. Thou shalt have a high standard of excellence. I cannot tell you how many businesses that I run into. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go look at their website. And when the website looks like crap, you have a certain opinion about the business. There's something that they don't care about. They may have a great product, a great service, or maybe even some great people. But when you look at what they're peddling from a design perspective or from a identity perspective, and it doesn't look like what they're saying, you just get a little bit of a pause. So be diligent about having excellent stuff. I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't. The ability to find great designers is really easy, especially here in New York. You can always call me, Clayton Banks. My email will be at the end of this presentation. But you never want to have stuff out that's raggedy. And we're all sort of guilty of it at various times. I say in business a lot because I do website development for people, and no one's ever happy with their website. Nobody. I don't care if you have talked to MTV, you can talk to Sony. No one's ever happy. And that makes me stay in business because they want to continue to improve on it, but it's an important thing for them to do. So you need to do that too, no matter where you're at in your business cycle. If you're at the beginning or if you're fully immersed in your company, you need to have an identity and a website and your Facebook and all those type of things at a high level. Thou shalt be patient, persistent, and have thick skin. You are going to be challenged. You're going to have competitors. You're going to have what they call haters. You're going to have people that will tell you something won't work. It's hard to hear that stuff. I got to tell you, it's hard to hear someone tell you no. It's just difficult, especially when you feel like everything is lined up correctly, and it's hard. It's much easier to say, you know what, you're right, I'm done, I'm going to be fold up camp, I don't need this, I'm out of here. It's much tougher to hang in there. I could have done that. 2000 was no fun. When .com became, somewhat of a bad thing to have, I could have easily said, you know what, I don't need this. I'll go back to a big corporate job and make a lot of money just kind of pushing paper from one side of the desk to the next. But persistence, there's something about that. And it's funny, President Obama talks about that. He talks about all great presidents have one thing in common, that's persistence. Because they're up against ultimate opposition all the time. So if you're not persistent about what you believe in, certainly you can be knocked off your post. And So that's something I feel very passionate about. You know, it's a hang in there mentality. And lots of you have had to overcome adversity in your life anyway. So business obstacles should be like a pushover when you really consider where some of you may have come from. So for me, you know, patience is a virtue. You always want things to happen fast. You want them to happen quickly. But I said to myself, when I started my company, you know, how much time would I be willing to give to become a multi-millionaire? Because some people think you should do it like within a couple of days. It doesn't happen that way. I would love it to happen that way, you know, but I don't play the numbers, Evans. But the point is, so the point is, it doesn't happen overnight. But you got to say to yourself, if you're persistent and you're patient, and you end up being a multi-millionaire, what's the problem? Just because you didn't do it within a year, just because you didn't do it within 2 years, maybe it takes you 15, 20 years. But if you get to the destination, isn't that really sort of the point? You know, it's part of the journey. Thou shalt trust your gut. There are times when you do have to throw in the towel. There's times, for me, where I've had to fire a client. Where the client was so demanding and so late and so disparaging that it was not beneficial to the company to continue the relationship. It's somewhat of a sinful thing to do. Who would want to fire a client, that somebody who could write you a check? But in our case, it was ended up costing us more to keep them around as a client. You know, employees' morale go down, all types of things have an effect. That it was important for us to trust our gut and say, you know what? You know, it's not worth to continue the relationship. And we're better off for it. So you got to trust your gut. There's some things you just know that ain't right, and you have to trust that. Thou shalt love your customer. So this is important, right? You want to be able to hold on to the customers that you have, make those relationships grow. There's no easier sell than to someone who's already bought from you. So it's much more of a sales cycle to go after somebody new and get them to understand what you do and educate them and go through the whole cycle of wanting to buy an ad or something like that, versus somebody who already is doing business with you. And so you got to love those customers. You got to show that love. You have to show them appreciation, even if it's writing. For me, one of the things I like to do is send articles to my clients. An article related to their business. It may not have anything to do with me, it may not have anything to do to prompt a call to me or anything. It's just something to say to them, hey, I'm watching what your industry is doing. You should see this article that I found. And it's really easy to do. You can go on Google Alerts and just put in all your customers in your Google Alerts, and you can find out stuff in their industry. Send them a little bit of note, and they really appreciate that. It shows that you really do care about them. Thou shalt honor your employees. These are the people that are really the lifeline of your business, at least for me and for a lot of the business owners that I know. There are businesses that I've seen that really, you know, kind of tear down their employees and, you know, sort of rule by, you know, real sort of strict, you know, way, or even in an aggressive way, and they have high turnover. And when you have high turnover in a business, it costs you money. You can never get the kind of margins that you can get when you have a stable workforce. So it's important for you to, you know, honor those employees and have long-term employees. I have employees that have been with me a long time, and that's important to me. Thou shalt manage your money. Somebody told me, you know, even as president of your company, you should always keep an eye on your money. Don't let the accountants, don't let the, you know, the financial advisor be the only people that can tell you where your money's at. You need to keep an eye on your own money. This also involves credit, keeping you know, very much up on how your credit looks to other businesses. You know, this involves capital, how you take in capital, how you pay back capital, all those type of things you need to understand. A lot of us go, you know what, I'm really not good with numbers, I'm not good with finance, I'm just going to let somebody else handle that. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging where your strengths are. But keep an eye on the money. That's an important thing. I've seen many businesses get hurt by not knowing exactly where their money is going. Thou shalt be innovative and utilize technology. Finally, the last commandment. Thou shall know your social media presence. It's kind of a new commandment, you know? If you want to amend the commandments, this is a new commandment. This commandment is all about, you know, where are you in social media space? You need to know what people are saying about your company, about your product, about your service. You need to help direct that chatter a little bit. You need to know how much of a footprint you have out there. And this is vital to small business to big business. Small business can look like a big business, because actually small business can do social media even better. It's not just Facebook and Twitter, by the way. You know, there's a lot of things out there that you can use that will help extend your brand, help shape your brand, help you do things that you know, we use social media to even do customer service. So you must understand where you're at on that. We actually invented a tool to help you understand where your digital footprint is. We do an evaluation of all the social media outreach that you're doing or not doing. And we help our clients understand where their shortfall is and where their opportunities are. And if you need that help, you can contact me and let me know. But the point is, you need to know that. There are companies out there that, you know, end up having a big problem because you know, someone's saying very bad things about them. And if they're not controlling that conversation, somebody else is. And that's what will happen with you. So you don't want that to happen. So these are my sort of 10 commandments for you to ponder. And certainly, if you want to get in touch with me, bam, there it is. You know, you can. I'm not handing out any business cards, so I want you to know that. So go ahead and type it into your device at this time. And I just want to again thank the Harlem Business Alliance and thank all of you for listening.